Thank you all for participating. Let me just say I'm Ralph Wolff and have been a board member of WAAS and recently became president of the World University Consortium. And by way of introduction, I wanted to comment about how frequently the need for education about the global crisis in this age of uncertainty has been raised by every panel. And so we are really, all of us on this panel are educators, and my career has been in higher education. And I think our big gap is, and one of the root causes is we have not been able to transmit and translate all this knowledge that we have to people who, voters, and to those who do not have the education that we have, and they're very susceptible to exploitation and manipulation around communication channels that attack elitism as a problem. And those of us with education and knowledge are considered to be the elite. And the part of the challenge is that the system of education is struggling to adapt to a very uncertain future and struggling to deal with what some have called a post-truth environment in which truth itself is questioned. We've heard in the first Trump administration something called alternative facts. And so the idea of what is truth, it used to be critical thinking was something we wanted to educate about, but it is very hard to educate in a world in which there is tremendous attack on truth itself, on knowledge, on science, and we have a tremendous challenge. This panel is focused on human security as a paradigm for using, and one of the goals wanted to have this panel is that when the World Academy, working with the UN, created the Human Security for All approach for 2 years, working with the Consumer Electronics Society, uh, and the Consumer Technology Society, and we presented at CES for several years um, about the need for human security. I wanted to get the World University Consortium to focus on organic programs that uh, would bring human security into the daily lives of people as a paradigm, as an organic way of specific thinking about how do we make human security, same way we need to make sustainability and climate change part of our daily conversation and our daily actions. So the human security has historically and largely been at the diplomacy level, at the multilateral level, and I'm hoping we can develop programs and will describe what many of you are doing to bring human security, the concepts of what the UN Declaration on Human Security tried to approach. We're going to go through. There's Mila. Good evening and glad to have you on. Without further ado, well, let me just also say that I hope that we can develop programs that will bridge the gap, both the communication gap about translation of these world issues to people who do not have the education that we have, do not have the knowledge we have. How do we communicate? And I believe a lot of that is around listening, not just telling. I keep hearing we need to educate. And my experience, particularly in the US, is where over half the population does not have the credentials, did not have college or professional degrees, that we need to find ways to bring this knowledge into day-to-day lives. And I think all of the people on the panel have experience in both listening and communicating. And the hope is that the World University Consortium um, can be a model for demonstrating new programs. So we're going to go through and begin with Eden. And Eden and I are working on a um, let me just say that we're working on a collaboration between the Black Sea University Network. We have, Eden's been able to work with 20 universities around three areas: migration, sustainability, and human security. And the World University Consortium, we're working on a project that will bring, actually on all three, we'll focus first on human security to address the mindset around what we'll call global awareness, in which global mindset, but local solutions. What we'll basically do is to say that what we're working on is a project with over probably 20 universities and a number of programs. And my goal is through this project to start as a pilot to bring human security into multiple disciplines. I'd like to think when the World Academy talked about human security for all, I'd like to talk about human security for all departments, for all disciplines, and to think about interdisciplinarity in addressing global problems and making human security and human-centered thinking and action primary. A good example in Texas recently, we had major floods, over 100 people killed, many children. And for years, there had been efforts to install warning systems, but because cost was considered to be too problematic, the funds were available, but there was no desire to install them. And instead, there was no warning, and we had a huge loss of human life. We need to find ways to make the human security more organic, more on the ground level, and to me, this to create projects and to learn from what all of you on the panel and others are doing. So we're working with Eden, who's the General Secretary of the Black Sea University Network and also a faculty member at Ovidius University, and to work with these programs and to see if we can create a certification process to highlight and to reward excellence in developing approaches to human security in multiple disciplines that are very organic and ground level and problem and solution oriented. Uh, we want to move from the diplomatic level to what people do at their in their day-to-day lives. So how do we bring this forward? And Eden has developed in his own thinking a model that he'll share right now. Eden, let me turn it over to you around a master's program in automotive engineering and the modern auto. And Devakanni can speak about a K-12 curriculum she's working with and others as well.
So first of all, I would like to thank you for the introduction, but more than that, for the whole vision, because we have to say that this vision, how can I say, has been based on your idea of bringing this human security into the classroom, into the effective types of activities. On the other side, in January, we had also the chance to visit the center of Peter, this amazing center of future commons at Arizona State University. And we have seen also how this has been developed at a very successful and, let's say, a very detailed approach on sustainability part. So the aspect was, how can we do something like this in human security? And in that respect, I would like to give you just an idea about our approach. So, of course, we are starting from the, let's say, basic security at the UN General Assembly, taking into consideration, let's say, aspects that have to be people-centered, comprehensive, context-specific, and prevention-oriented responses that strengthen the protection and empowerment of all people. And of course, we are a little bit swamped into the complexity of human security, because whenever you try to take it from one part, always you can see the multi-dimensions, the multi-sectorial, and these are extremely difficult if you don't have a clear methodology to address it. So the classical approach, of course, in this kind of courses, whenever we are taking human security into educational path, is, of course, to start always from risk analysis and mitigation, to move on into life cycle and optimization aspects, taking also the preparation of multi-criteria analysis and decision, and everything, every time you return to value analysis and you go on in different iterations. So in that context, of course, we started from the general and very basic approach to the human behavior. So this is a picture of Pablo Coelho in Bucharest, while he was in one of the hotel rooms, and he was looking to the people trying to do something, where you can see that the majority of the people, they are just watching while one of them is trying to do something. So we have to, and actually Pablo Coelho pointed out on this picture that basic, let's say, model matrix of human behavior. And of course, human, let's say, security reasoning requires a huge package of multivalent logic, synthetic thinking, integrative learning, to focus on consequences, to generate synergies, to involve the students in teamwork, and of course to have active involvement in many other activities. So how to move from that picture before into that complexity, and how to transfer all these values and all that behavioral shift. And of course, for this paradigm shift, we have to move from, let's say, clear given knowledge to start asking good questions, from learning as a product to learning as a process and the product. And of course, to put the teacher to move towards, let's say, the position of expert and consultant, and of course, on the other side, to involve the student to start looking, let's say, to have the approach to empty frames to competent learners, and of course the aspects related to shift from chat and talk to learner-centered approaches. So all these teaching approaches, like putting accent on asking good questions, critical thinking, commitment in taking different responsibilities, independence in trying to address problems, cooperative attitude, and action thinking, but above all, responsibility. So all these elements look like very far when we try to address them based on different study programs. So of course, the aspects are also taking such a, let's say, requirement when we are looking to aspects of integrating the individuals into teams and to have them part of a, let's say, coordinated approach in the society. So now we would like to, and we wanted together with actually under the guidance of Gary, we wanted to start an approach how to make this effective for a study program. And in Ovidius University, we have a study program in automotive engineering and is addressing, let's say, both the bachelor and master degree. And here we started, of course, from the problem. We emphasized the aspects that are extremely important in, let's say, relation of human to that specific topic. So the aspects regarding the car utilization, for instance, typically the use of car is mentioned by these figures. 95% of the time is just is parked, and then just 5% of all time lifetime of a vehicle is usually in driving. And also in energy aspects, energy use in the car, where we have huge part, 86% of fuel that we are, let's say, introducing into the tank, never reach the wheels. So there is a huge aspect of loss in energy, and also on aspects related to deaths and accidents, and aspects related to the fact that 95% of accidents are caused by human errors. So all these elements are the elements to start to build awareness in the study program. And then the development of the concept of human security, not focusing only on a very narrow aspect like is the automotive device on itself or the automotive system of itself, but the connectivity between the system with all the other components of the infrastructure, where we have, let's say, aspects of security issues and threatening the security from many different perspectives, even, let's say, the sedentary travel or the inaccessibility or the consumption of space, time, and resources, and many other aspects that might be not necessarily directly evident in this. And then in the program, we started to build the connectivity between externalities and harms. So to identify what kind of connections we have between crashes, between intentional violence, pollution, sedentary travel, with aspects related to violence, to health, to social injustice, and environmental damage, and tracing this all into a holistic approach where we bring car not as a simple system, as I said, but as part of a mobility infrastructure as a whole, and evolving into this, let's say, the aspects of human security. And then, of course, the students are invited to reconsider, to redefine the car in the, let's say, new context of putting their security in the center, in the core of their way of thinking, and then redefining the mobility inside the city and reconsidering the city as secure from the point of view of the mobility and relation of the citizen to the mobility, of course, considering of different new technologies and aspects that might look fancy and addressing the interest of the students. And of course, we wanted to put an emphasis also on the aspect that we are celebrating today the 65th anniversary of the Academy, and actually the core element that started before the initiation of the Academy with this Russell-Einstein Manifesto that was in 1955, and where it is this very important aspect that always we have to consider, that we have to remember our humanity and forget about the rest. So this is the approach. At present, there are 20 universities from the network that are, let's say, involved into this process. We focused on human security, we focused on sustainable development, and of course, there are other issues like the migration that are of core interest. We would like also to have a partnership with the Arizona State University on topic related to sustainable development. Maybe we shall be able to make some connectivities with this, with Professor Schlosser and his team there. And
we need to move on.
thank you.
Thank you. It's a very exciting program, and we'll be reporting on its future. Let me turn to Devakanni, who has been working with thousands of students on human security, young children, and love to hear about your experience and how you're proceeding.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Currently we are doing in around like this year we have sent the information to more than 1,000 schools. The usual program what I presented in the conference, like making booklets for each and every observance day, that is ready. And then we are making the students to understand more and more on the topics related to this. Every school here are also like they are aware of sustainable goals, and they are working on it. It's when I'm taking this to the schools, it's not very new to them. But then when it comes to action, okay, they are doing to some extent, they are not doing it in depth. The first thing what I noticed here is building, first of all, conscious institutions. Like every school, if you say like you have more than, they are built in several acres of land. So when it comes to environmental thing, the way they build itself can be differently made. They can be guided on that. Institutions can be to be certified. Like we can, WAAS can conduct programs. We can give certifications to the schools when they are complying to the sustainable goals. I see when they are having several acres of land, when they have thousands of students in the campus, they can always build a garden also. Garden, like as we recommend kitchen gardens, they can also develop gardens in the school, in the schools. And we can give them hands-on experience in the schools itself. And then they can be taken to places where they build sustainable buildings and ecological buildings. So we can make them to experience that. We can make them to feel that there is something in it. And we can bring them a lot of case studies. So what we have done is, we have included this in our, so we run SpellBee International, and it is already there in 1,000 schools. This year also, we have circulated it to 1,000 schools. And so far, around 600 schools have enrolled. We for sure will be doing it in around, so the information goes to around 1 million kids. So we have given them an opportunity, even if they do not pay any money, 2 to 3 observance days can be conducted to the whole school. Like one school with a population of like 1,000 to 3,000 students generally, on an average 1,000 students. So it's going to around 1,000 schools. They can do it even free of cost. So this is as part of our program, we are able to do it. We charge some 10% of the students, but the school can extend this service to around to all the 100% of the students. Even today I was in 2 schools and they were very happy to take it up, because we are also supplying certificates to them to English language. But then when it comes to fluency, we are adding this. We are making the students to speak about different areas like mountain day, like this. So each and everything, like on Animal World Wildlife Day. So we are taking different
no matter
days.
how tiny, plays a vital role in our world's honeybee. It helps us. We call it
the most unsung heroes of our environment.
So, and then we are also giving them art competitions. And then we have named this as classroom to communities. We are using also HS4A's banner and WAAS banner, so that it will be easy for them. So now they are becoming familiar with the brand WAAS and HS4A. And as per the title what we have given and the explanation and the detail there, it's possible we should take some certifications to the teachers. We should take WAAS definitely is a very good, robust body. Such webinars, like today I have circulated this webinar to nearly 1,000 schools. And I don't know how many of them are turning up at this time. But then we are taking snapshots of these sessions and we are circulating to all these schools once again. Every day we are taking snapshots of the important classes and the important sessions, and then we are circulating to people. So awareness is growing. It's a right time, like we can also start certifications. We can certify the teachers. I think to start with, we should start certifying the schools and also awarding those people who are already doing this. It's not that like it's not getting done anywhere. There are many things, innovations are there. There are many conscious institutions are already there. They are doing a lot of things already. So to find those people and then appreciate them and then to award WAAS and HS4A can institute several awards. So just a trophy, a certification. It's not of much money, just a trophy and certification to appreciate those people who are already doing something. So I would recommend that as a first thing. Second thing is teachers will always be happy to get a certification and then to receive classes. And we are doing every month one complimentary session for educators. So we are inviting people from WAAS. So this year also we'll have around 8 and at least around 200 to 800 schools. Generally, it is depending upon the examination time. 200 to 800 schools used to attend that. So a few of our WAAS members can come and speak on different concepts. So that is what we are arranging. I'm arranging it through Janani. So this is our work. Thank you.
Okay. And Devakanni, what's the age range of the students you're working with?
We are doing from grade 1 to grade 9. And coming year, we will take it to higher educational institutions also. But then I am a very firm believer of whatever you can do by or before by or before the age of 12, it really works. And it gets installed in their mind. This is how, like, okay, grow gardens like this. You should have nutritious food. And the type of a choice they take, all these things. We are having wonderful thing. We are doing debates. We are doing express talks. We are arranging SMUN and Model United Nations. We are doing mock parliament. We are doing moot court. For all these things, we have developed materials, as I've said, and then we are giving these materials to the schools. Whoever is interested to celebrate any of the event, we are giving these materials. Those are all free of cost to them. And then we are giving certificates also. We are asking them to implement it in the whole school and then to give certificates. Teachers training, we give. So we are giving orientations to the teachers.
Great. Thank you. I see new opportunities for certification for the WC.
For sure.
Let
In
me,
all, we can certify institutions, we can certify teachers and educators, we can certify students also. They'll be very happy to have these certifications. Yes.
And something for Eden to work on as well. Let me turn thank you, Eden. Our time is limited. Mila, as a Director General for Multiculturalism, you certainly work with people of all generations and are a great listener. And I believe one of the great things we need to do is to make education listen more than preach. Love to hear your thoughts on how we infiltrate this whole concept of human security for social consciousness and awareness.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all the colleagues, friends, and speakers, and to everybody listening to us. As Rolf said, I'm Mila Popovich, and I'm a fellow and trustee of the World Academy. Otherwise, I am an independent academic artist and activist that decided to take on a very formal institutional role as the Director General in the government of Montenegro. I am an intercultural being myself, and half American, half Montenegrin. This background is important because exactly because I wanted to take action that could be scaled out, and scaled up. I decided to change one of the hats, or add a hat to my life, and a responsibility to see how I can work with institutions from within the policy-making bodies and governing bodies to generate change. For that, there are two contexts that are very important to explain, and why Montenegro, where I'm at right now, where I'm serving, I should say, is so important. It is a country at the intersection of East and West, North and South. And it has been an absolute cultural blessing to be from this area, and a true historical political curse because of the regular turmoil that we go through as we are doorway into Europe. We're east to the west and west to the east, if you will. This is a very important context to explain why, on the sociocultural level in the Balkans, where we are sort of the linchpin in the Balkans, it is very important for the safety in the Balkans, in Europe, to keep Montenegro stable and sustainable. Mind you, Montenegro is also the very first ecological state in the world. In 1991, in the midst of Yugoslav civil wars, somehow in the midst of civil wars, this country that has always been known as the country of Highlanders and warriors, freedom fighters, I should say, we accepted refugees from 3 or 4 warring sides, housed them, gave them homes, and integrating them into the society to the point where they are actually shaping the present and the future of this country. That's important to mention. But it also, on the econo-political side of things, the context from what I'm wanting to explain to you is the realization that with the enormous technological advance, Montenegro cannot compete in terms of tech force, military force. Hopefully we will not have to. In terms of financial force, I mean, we can definitely sort of be competitive and be contributive if we discuss social norms, such as this courage to make this a first ecological state in the world, and other ways. So social innovation, ethics, and social norms should be something that it has been something that has been in the background in the long history of this country, something that we should put in the forefront now in the world. So what we're dealing with here is global perspective and a local policy or a local response in a looping back effect, where the local response from Montenegro could become a model of something much greater. At least we're prototyping that in the country, especially having taken into consideration that it is a UN member states with the capacity to propose these solutions to be magnified and implemented. And also Montenegro is gearing to be to preside over the Council of Europe, a unique organization, maybe a bit older than UN, that has 46 country members and growing, that is currently probably the center of moral authority here, that has this chance to secure the sustainability of European Union. Why am I saying all this? Why am I giving you a wider context? Because there's a realization that in the technological era of nowadays, all learning is happening all the time. And all learning is a social learning process. Now that we have that as the case, what do? How do you then develop institutions and policies in a country to develop programs that can actually focus on human security, sustainability, and conscious evolution? What I'm trying to say here, there's a realization, in other words, that a tiny country at a crucial space in the spot, in geostrategic spot in the world, could prototype something in social learning that could be beneficial for everybody as a model. So what we did, we realized, and I'll run briefly through this as fast as I possibly can, is that, as I said a minute ago, that what we are seeing here is the global context and local response, a macroscopic pressure, and a microscopic policy is an answer. To give a context, I borrowed something from colleagues from the Millennium Project who are partners on this. If you look at the era of conscious technologies, you will already see that the biggest issues will be the question of identity and identity wars, and also the question of new identities being created and their interests and their human rights, and how do you incorporate that into understanding of the new education that will have to take place or be designed for human security that accounts for these new identities, honors them, values them, and acts from that understanding. So with that being said, with the understanding of this larger context, I quickly want to draw your attention that we are now, as I've described before, working between, all of this should be a part of the education, especially of civic education, and a part of a larger context education for every science, every discipline, because you have to properly contextualize your knowledge and properly derive local solutions towards it. So this is apparent what we're dealing with. The convergence of global issues is an existential risks, which is important why it's in conversion, because all of these issues are amplifying, multiplying, and intensifying each other's effect. Next to it, we have the grand convergence of technology. Same point, that they are mutually intensifying, multiplying, and accelerating pressures on humanity. So between these two, as I usually call them, Scylla and Charybdis of pressures, everything rests, what we have discovered in Montenegro and now in the world, on social cohesion, on coming together based and sourced in universal human rights and responsibilities and universal humanistic values that will in fact turn technology to solve our existential risks and create conditions for fulfillment and of human potential. So this I don't have to discuss. I'll just share it quickly. What are some of the ailments of the society? And then to draw your attention to what it is that the technology for education and educating for the new technology, this is very important, that they're being used, understood, and we are consciously and conscientiously prepared for the coming technology through education that will have to leapfrog so much, because we definitely cannot wait to be designing a new educational system. We will have to jump into what the technology is offering with the proper content. So I will not be describing these, they will be readily available. The key is to protect biodiversity and cultural diversity, and this is something that is needed for humanizing of technology and for humanistic use of technology to protect the society, but also it will properly ennoble and enrich technology itself. So what we have done at the Directorate of Interculturalism, we have adopted the very first strategy for interculturalism social cohesion in order to arrive to a set of vision and values that will inform a new social contract that will determine the price and value of everything and determine the direction of the country's development and the paradigm of human development. These are the key aspects of the culture of interbeing. With this strategy and with the founding of the Directorate, Montenegro has become also the very first country in the world to make culture of interbeing its public policy. And this is the true balancing force and ennobling force for new technology to serve humanity and to also be guided, as you can see here from the slide, by an ethical, aesthetic, and ecological code for true human security and human sustainability, as we have realized that there's a profound causal link between interculture as basically scientific and spiritual knowledge that all beings, all phenomena, all life forms are deeply interdependent and mutually connected. And this is the foundation of all knowledge that we should have, so that there's a profound causal link between interculture, social cohesion for human security, for true sustainability. And that is an exceptionally important causal link that needs to be put in the forefront. So I will skip through this. I will just show one of the last slides. What are the building blocks, starting from the bottom and up, of this kind of policy education that needs to be happening at all levels? It needs to happen at the level, all institutional domains and sectors. It needs to be, it needs to enter all of educational systems at all levels. It needs to feed healthy content media and media content. It has to feed healthy cultural programming, because we will go one step further to ask for the right not only to the healthy natural environment, as we do it in Montenegro based on our ecological state, but we are insisting also that we should all have the right to healthy social environment. So with this,
Mila, we
I
need
will,
to
yes.
close it up. There
Yes.
are two more speakers, so.
Yes, so I will just point to this slide. What are the organizing principles and core values for integral sociocultural transformation, and what all the children and all the people at all the times should be learning as we are interacting with technology? We need to be giving it healthy prompts in order to be receiving healthy solutions. And I'll leave you with this last slide so that it's recording to show some aspects of what the interculture or the culture of interbeing is. Thank you very much for your patience, but I hope I have painted the picture of the possibility of social learning processes, how we can turn it into policies, and how we can actually work together through the World Academy, World University Consortium to multiply models like this. Thank you so much.
Very exciting. Thank you. Look forward to reports on how it's working. Pavel Luksha, what are your thoughts on how we can infiltrate human security into our consciousness?
Well, thank you first of all for organizing this session, and I'm also grateful for previous speakers to set up the stage of this conversation. I feel that the idea of social evolution that we have in the title of this session is quite crucial, because what we are discussing is the, let's say, uplifting the role of education from an institution that helps to replicate practices of society to the one that can intentionally steer the development of society. And I think we sort of see this higher possibility embedded in education. And I think Mila just beautifully shown the potential if we expand the notion of learning. But we also constantly see the resistance. And the resistance comes, of course, from institutional perspective, but I think it also comes from the mindset, the lack of appreciation that we as society now live in completely different setting than the context for which educational systems have been designed actually centuries ago. So I'd like to share a few slides on the work that we're doing as with some colleagues, but I think, Ralph, that is very complementary to the idea of promoting curriculum for human security. So with colleagues from Learning Planet Institute in France, we've been advocating for this idea of planetary mission of universities. And that's my version of how we should approach this task. On one hand, we should approach it from the standpoint of highlighting the need for this type of curriculum, but we should also recognize that universities themselves, I'll show just a few slides. So universities themselves, focusing on each of their missions, are now going through an enormous crisis where each of the missions is kind of collapsing, kind of being overtaken by other social institutions. So the unique standing that this kind of entrenchment that kept universities as a unique social institution playing a very specific role is quickly getting dissolved or eradicated. And there is a challenge of alternatives that we see the networks supporting research, platforms for education, groups of NGOs and movements supporting the development of society much better than most universities do. And if we think about the impact of technologies, primarily AI and the advancement towards general artificial intelligence, AGI, this is a wake-up call for universities that in the next 5 to 10 years, many of them will find themselves redundant in basically all of their current work. And in exception of the few, let's say, outstanding universities in the world, it will be very evident to societies, to learners themselves, that it doesn't make sense, let's say, to pay those fees, to support those institutions much longer, unless they discover a new mission. And still, we also see that there is this unique role of universities that holds together the next generation, holds the essential commons, safeguarding both natural, socio-cultural, and digital commons of humanity. It cultivates different types of intelligence and practices different forms of governance where we can say we rediscover again and again what it means to govern democratically. That's one of the roles of university, to actually learn how to do it collectively. So one of arguments that come from me and my colleagues is that we need to start thinking about a new mission of universities that will help it discover the unique role for the long time to come. Let's say next 100 or next several hundred years in the future, leveraging all its unique capabilities and assets. And where this role comes from, basically comes from the extreme societal needs, the situation that we are facing, in which we are now reaching, on one hand, the peak of human potential from socioeconomic standpoint, but we're also reaching the tipping point in terms of fragility of environmental systems that keep on in place. And if we look into the future, that's from my book called Next 100 Years, one of things that is projected is that risks of collapse of our society and our civilization, and perhaps the risks towards all of our species, are growing very rapidly over the next several decades, peaking towards the middle of the century. And probably that will be the point of breakdown unless we discover new pathways. So obviously that's an issue of planetary boundaries trespass. That's an issue of technologies that create potentially lethal outcomes, the existential outcomes, and also evolutionary dead ends for our species. And of course, peace as one of essential questions. We see that the risk of global peace maybe is one of top priorities in terms of human security. So mapping out all those risks, all those unresolved challenges, we get a picture like this, where many of risks remain unresolved and will peak in the next few decades, producing really what some people call polycrisis. So it's not just one single crisis, it's a crisis of crisis. Many factors, many boundaries trespass together, which sets actually, Ralph, the question of human security as a top priority for our civilization. We cannot just say it's nice to have. It's absolutely critical, absolutely critical. So unless we address the human security issues, there is no future. So I will say from that perspective, who are those people, who are those institutions that can amplify this agenda? So this is where the question intentional social evolution comes into play, as we are entering this period of some people call it decisive decade, where risks are escalating, and at the same time we are building up new institutional systems, new governance systems through digital solutions and new social norms, where we can also move to the transit to collective flourishing, to thrivable futures. And that's the fork point, the turning point where we are actively entering right now as we speak. And so from my perspective, I'm wrapping up, just a couple of slides more. From my perspective, that's what we need to bring to every university, to say, this is your future role. This is your future role. You have all the assets. There is no other social institution in the society that has all the assets to facilitate the global transition. You are the ones. And especially in terms of common, the next speaker is going to highlight that universities have this potential to weave the social fabric, connecting cultural, what Mila was talking about, intergenerational and even interspecies perspectives for holding the collective future, for amplifying the social innovation. So that's why planetary mission cements other missions for years and decades and centuries to come. And that's my last statement. I think we are facing the crisis of university, but crisis and invitation to transit. So we need to find a new mission of university, and it needs to be built up around the notion of human security and intentional social evolution.
Thank you. That's quite inspiring. And I will say, Mila, it connects to exactly what you were saying. And Peter, what in the time remaining, what you are doing, the School of Global Futures at Arizona State. In our time remaining, Peter, I wonder if you might comment on what you heard and how you're responding to this at ASU.
And nevertheless, I just will try to focus on a few things that and deviate from my prepared remarks. So clearly, we are at a time where traditional academia is not functioning. It's not delivering what we are needing. It actually contributed to some of the problems that we are facing. So what we did here as part of the Global Futures Laboratory is to say we are designing that entity as the prototype of a new type of university for the future of the planet. So within the Global Futures Laboratory that does a lot of research into what we can do to take pressure off the planet, we created a college called the College of Global Futures, within which we have by now 4 schools. They are all addressing specific needs of the next generations. There is sustainability, there's the School of Innovation, Ocean Futures, Complex Adaptive Systems, and now the 5th school just has launched Conservation Futures. They are all driven by themes rather than by disciplines. So we are deviating from the discipline-oriented model of education. We are including students in the co-design of our material, because we have to give the youth a voice and agency. We cannot simply teach them based on methods that have led us off course, and we cannot simply load onto their shoulders to solve the problems of the future. We have to scale, so we have to use digital delivery, and beyond the traditional digital delivery, we are now using virtual reality, which actually has the advantage of bringing students around the world back and forth in time, so that they are prepared to go out into the job market ready to make decisions based on understanding which world are they living in. And that is an important point for us because they are not just seeing environmental pressures or biogeochemical issues, they also see the human dimension. So each of the modules that we are developing in VR has a physical, biogeochemical, and social component with the goal of showing students where their agency is. And this is not just the typical college type students, this is also for lifelong learning. So we are trying to move education from traditional discipline-oriented methods to an holistic view of the world in which they live, showing them where the pressures are, but more importantly, showing them where we have knowledge that we are not applying, where their agency is, where their options are to move forward, and how they actually can become agents of change and thereby help society to avoid moving into a period of self-regulation of the planet with relatively harsh outcomes for humanity. I just leave it at that.
Peter, let me ask, one of the things I have heard year after year is the rigidity of faculty appointment and disciplinary silos, in that people who want to work in an interdisciplinary, multi-discipline way are siloed and they only have to produce research in respected journals in a narrow discipline. Given the multi and interdisciplinary nature of what you're creating, how do you create a faculty that is privileged and rewarded for doing interdisciplinary work rather than staying in their silo?
So we have to develop new metrics for their evaluation because the traditional metrics will not lead to the outcomes that we are looking for. There is, I have to be quite honest there is tension within the traditional part of the university and what we are doing. But fortunately, in our case, we do have support from the leadership of the university. So we are actually evaluating, or our faculty is evaluated following somewhat different metrics. And this metrics is changing progressively as we are moving deeper into that way of understanding, responding, and teaching how to apply that to the real world.
I have another question, and given we have another minute, is what you've created is something that's quite unique within the American university context, as far as I know. Are you working to cultivate similar schools, interdisciplinary schools, either in the US or internationally? I could see with Pavel and working on a New Earth University could be, mentored in a new approach, or I just wondered, I know there's so much work to be done already within your in ASU, but it seems like this could be a model, a pilot for working with other institutions internationally and within the US.
Yeah, we do have connections to other universities, but I do have to say, and I'm a product of the German system, as you undoubtedly have heard from my accent, it is very difficult in some systems that are even more traditional than the US system. For example, in Germany, it is almost impossible to move people off their disciplinary approach. So there we try to actually move a little bit more to the learning space outside traditional universities and work through the Earth League or similar constructs to say what can be done to actually soften that space from the outside if the inside of universities are just, we have to keep in mind that for hundreds of years universities have fortified themselves against change. All of a sudden they should be the agents of change. A lot of them don't make that. So we have to look for the high-spirited, risk-friendly places that are working with us in challenging the very foundations of traditional academia. And in a way, academia has to be revolutionized. There is no doubt in my mind.
I think we would all support that and agree and what you are doing, you also have tremendous leadership from your president and support that is rare. But the need is great. And before we close, let me thank you all. This has been a wonderful panel, and each one of you could have taken the full time, I must say. Let's go around, do a round robin and just do closing comments, and we'll do in the same order. Eden, closing comments from you?
Of course, it was a wonderful experience passing through examples of effective programs, like also Devakanni presented the aspects related to, let's say, early age, pre-university, myself at the university, and then Mila and Pavel. So in that respect, I think the most important conclusion here is the collaboration. So if we can have these experiences shared and the possibility to replicate the very successful ones. Thank you.
Devakanni.
As far as the certification is concerned, I didn't tell about one thing what we are making. Like we are calling many educators, and we have formed a curriculum on sustainable goals and human security, and as one part of the course, and India's top five, one among the top five institution. In some way, it's the top one institution, Indian Institute of Management, Kolkata. Their professors are delivering September 21st to 23rd. So that one program, we have already done one model now. So like around 100 heads of the institutions will be called, and it will be delivered by the number one institution. Yeah. So that's so like as Mr. Eden was saying, like a lot of collaborations can be done. We have World University Consortium, we have World Academy for Arts and Science. With this, we can make certification. We all have best of the best heads in this conference itself. Some of them can be pulled in, and we can make a program. They're all looking forward for school heads and college heads to listen to great things, and then to replicate, and also to share their ideas. This can be done. Thank you.
So just the beginning.
Yeah.
Mila.
Very briefly, I've said earlier in a panel that all governance, all education, all technology is all human, which means that we need to really focus on developing the human for human security. And that stems from an education that will be of the initiatory kind at every level, meaning that we need to tend to different phases and faces of our humanity for every individual and collectively. And what we need to be educating for in the new era is the broadest scale connecting capacity from the deepest scale of personal and social transformation.
Well said. Pavel.
So I feel like would like to highlight what Eden said. I think it's not just collaboration. I think what we need to do is movement building. There is a need for massive transformation of educational systems because of pressures that we encounter collectively as civilization, and underestimation of risks that is now present within decision-making space, both corporate and political. So I think that academia really needs to stand up, and there is a need for active movement build towards our collective futures, global futures, planetary futures.
Thank you. Peter,
Very
any
briefly,
final words?
be bold, don't accept the boundaries that have held us back, and include youth in designing the future education.
Thank you. Well, it's been a real privilege to thank you all, and it's been wonderful to have the last session of the day since we could go over. I will just say that there is a great Sanskrit phrase, Vasudhe Vasudev Kutumbakan, which is the world is my family. And I would say that the world is actually not just the human world. It's the animals, the ecological, it's the earth and spirit. And I would say that it is all the above and that we need to make that. Finally, I'll just say that one of my phrases over the last, my experience has been that higher education does not move by innovation, but more by emulation. And what we need to do is to highlight work like each one of you are doing, and make it more visible and use social media to make it more popular and more well known so that it can be emulated. But as Peter said earlier, we need a revolution and an evolution to a new mission, as Pavel said. And what all of you are doing are good examples of that. So thank you very much. And we look forward to tomorrow's sessions, and all of you will be on more sessions. So thank you very much, and have a good evening and the rest of your days.